The Last Dragon and Alien Queen, A Tale of Two Worlds. The story begins on a dying world, a planet once filled with magic, fire, and endless skies. It was called Elarion, home to the ancient race of dragons. For thousands of years, dragons ruled the skies, guarding the balance of life and the secrets of flame. But time was cruel. Wars, greed, and fading magic had nearly erased their kind. Only one dragon remained, the last of his race. His name was Kaelthar, the Flamekeeper. His scales shimmered like molten gold, and his eyes held the sorrow of centuries. Kaelthar lived in silence atop the Ashen Peaks, where he guarded the last ember of true dragonfire, a small glowing crystal known as the Heart of Elarion. It was said that as long as the heart burned, the memory of dragons would never die. Yet even that flame was fading. Kaelthar watched the night sky each evening, where stars shimmered like distant souls. He often wondered if other worlds existed beyond those lights, worlds untouched by war, worlds still full of life. Then one night, the stars changed. A streak of silver tore across the heavens, bright as dawn, cutting through the darkness like a blade. Kaelthar's heart trembled. It was no comet. He could feel the pulse of something alive, something powerful, descending through the void. The silver light crashed into the crystal plains, miles from his mountain. The shockwave shook the ground, and the air smelled of burning metal and ozone. Kaelthar spread his wings for the first time in decades, launching into the night sky, his mighty form slicing through clouds as he followed the light. Far away, in another galaxy, there was a queen who ruled not over a kingdom of magic, but of stars. Her name was Zyra, the alien queen of Aetherion Prime, a vast empire built upon science, light, and order. Her people were tall, luminous beings with skin that shimmered like glass under moonlight. They had conquered many worlds, united under her wisdom and power. But even among her kind, Zyra was different. She was not made only of reason, she dreamed. She dreamed of warmth, of life beyond technology, of something wild and pure. For years, she had looked to the stars, feeling a strange pull toward a distant blue and gold world, a place her scanners called uninhabitable. Yet, something in her heart told her otherwise. So, when her scientists detected a mysterious energy signature from Elarion, she defied their warnings and boarded a silver vessel, the Star Serpent, to see for herself. Her ship tore through space-time, gliding faster than thought. But as it entered Elarion's atmosphere, the planet's unstable energy fields lashed out. Lightning danced across the skies. Engines failed. The ship spiraled and crashed into the crystal plains. When Kaelthar arrived, the earth was still burning. He saw twisted metal glowing red, smoke rising like black wings, and at the center, a figure moving among the wreckage. He landed softly, his massive body shaking the ground. His golden eyes glowed as he peered closer. The figure was unlike anything he had ever seen, a tall being in silver armor, her body radiating faint light. Zyra stepped forward, dazed but unafraid. She stared at the giant creature before her, a dragon, alive and real. Her breath caught. Zyra, softly, impossible. You exist. Kaelthar's deep voice rumbled like thunder. Kaelthar, and you are not of this world. Their eyes met, fire and starlight colliding. The queen lowered her weapon. I came in peace, she said, her voice calm, yet filled with awe. I sought the source of this planet's energy. My scanners detected life. Ancient, powerful life. But I did not expect, she paused, looking at him with wonder, a dragon. Kaelthar's wings folded behind him as he studied her. All that lives here is dying, he said bitterly. There is no power left. Only ash. But Zyra shook her head. You are wrong. The readings I found were strong, burning still beneath the mountains. Something here still breathes magic. At her words, Kaelthar's heart stirred. She was speaking of the Heart of Elarion. He did not understand how a creature from the stars could sense its magic, but he knew she spoke truth. Kaelthar, There is one flame left. The last of my kind guards it. Zyra, then take me to it. Perhaps we can save what remains. He hesitated. For centuries, he had trusted no one. Yet something in her gaze, a light not born of conquest but of hope, softened the storm inside him. Finally, Kaelthar lowered his head. Very well, Star Queen. But tread carefully. The mountain remembers death. As dawn broke, they journeyed together toward the Ashen Peaks. The path was long and silent. Kaelthar walked beside her, his shadow stretching across the broken land. Around them, the world was a graveyard. Trees turned to stone, rivers dried to dust. Zyra studied everything with wonder and sorrow. Zyra, your world is beautiful, even in ruin. What happened here? Kaelthar, we did. Dragons hungered for power. We fought among ourselves for control of the heart. The skies burned for centuries. When the last war ended, only I remained. Zyra, and yet, you still protect the flame. Kaelthar, it is not protection. It is punishment. Zyra looked at him with gentle understanding. Perhaps it is also purpose. For the first time in ages, Kaelthar did not answer with anger. He simply walked in silence as the cold wind brushed against his golden scales. That night, they camped beneath a shattered moon. Zyra sat beside the dying embers of a small fire, her silver armor reflecting its glow. Kaelthar rested nearby, his massive form curled like a mountain of gold. Zyra, in my world, fire is something we only create through machines. But this, she extended her hand toward the flame, this feels alive. Kaelthar, fire is life. It remembers every touch, every sorrow. It burns not just to destroy, but to keep the darkness away. She smiled faintly. Then perhaps that's what we share, light born to fight the dark. Kaelthar turned his gaze to the stars. For the first time in 1,000 years, he felt not alone. But in the distance something stirred. Dark shapes moved beneath the earth, creatures that had slept since the end of the Dragon Wars. They felt the return of dragonfire. They felt the arrival of an alien queen. And deep below, a voice whispered through the cracks of the dying planet. The flame will burn again and the world will end with it. Kaelthar's eyes opened suddenly, a growl rising in his throat. Zyra looked at him in confusion. Zyra, what is it? Kaelthar, we are not alone. The wind howled through the valleys as dawn's first light crawled over the horizon. Kaelthar stood guard on a ridge, his golden eyes scanning the horizon. The faint tremors beneath his claws told him the truth. Something ancient had awakened. Zyra, still recovering from her crash, approached him, her silver armor glinting like moonlight. You felt it again, didn't you? She asked softly. Kaelthar nodded, the ground vibrating under his weight. The earth whispers of hunger. The old ones stir. Old ones, she echoed. The creatures that feasted on death after the dragons fell, he said, his voice low. They were born from our ashes. They crave the last flame, the heart of Elarion. Zyra's expression hardened. Then we must reach it before they do. Kaelthar looked down at her. This strange being from the stars who carried no weapon fierce enough to slay his ancient foes, yet whose courage burned brighter than her armor. Your world must be a place of warriors, he said quietly. Zyra gave a faint smile. No. My world forgot how to fight for life. We only fight for control. Maybe that's why I came here. For a moment, the dragon said nothing. Then he lowered his wings. Then perhaps fate chose well. They set out toward the mountains. The path wound through canyons filled with bones and glass, remnants of dragonfire storms long past. Zyra walked carefully beside the dragon, her sensors scanning the air. The readings were strange. The atmosphere was unstable, pulsing with living energy. At one point, she stopped, kneeling beside a pool of shimmering liquid metal. This isn't water, she murmured. Kaelthar glanced over. The tears of the mountain. When magic dies, it bleeds into the world. It corrupts what it cannot save. Zyra's voice grew soft. Even your world mourns. The dragon's chest rumbled with a deep sigh.
Yes.
Even worlds can grieve. By midday, they reached the edge of a massive canyon known as the Rift of Sorrows. Below, rivers of black mist twisted like serpents, whispering in forgotten tongues. "We must cross," Kaelthar said. Zyra stared down at the endless drop.
How?
A faint smile flickered across the dragon's face. "You have come from the stars, yet you fear the wind?" Before she could reply, Kaelthar lowered his body. "Climb on." Zyra hesitated only a moment before gripping the ridges of his neck. His scales were warm, like sunlight caught in metal. Then, with a single beat of his wings, they soared into the sky. The wind roared in her ears. Zyra clung tightly, feeling the world fall away beneath them. She had flown in ships across galaxies, but this was freedom. No metal, no engines, no cold calculation. Just life and sky and flame. Kaelthar's wings cut through the clouds, each beat echoing like thunder. Below them, shadows moved, dark creatures rising from the mist. Their bodies were thin and twisted, their eyes glowing like dying embers. "Zyra, what are they?" "Kaelthar, the Dravith. Born from dragon blood and corrupted fire. They serve no will but hunger." The creature screeched, hurling shards of black fire into the air. Kaelthar dodged one blast, the shockwave burning the tips of his wings. "Kaelthar, hold tight." He twisted sharply, flames bursting from his jaws, searing through the creatures. But for everyone he struck down, two more emerged from the mist. Zyra activated her wrist module, sending out a pulse of radiant energy. It flared like starlight, scattering several Dravith. Kaelthar looked back in surprise. "Kaelthar, you wield light as a weapon." "Zyra, on my world, light is our strongest shield." Together, fire and starlight tore through the darkness until they reached the other side of the canyon. Kaelthar landed heavily, his claws digging into the stone. Zyra slid off, breathing hard, her eyes wide with adrenaline. She turned to him with a breathless laugh. That was terrifying. Kaelthar's eyes gleamed. It was flight. They rested in a cave near the mountain's base. Kaelthar's side bore a deep burn where black fire had touched him. Zyra knelt beside him, removing a vial from her belt filled with shimmering blue liquid. "Kaelthar, what is that?" "Zyra, nanite serum. It repairs tissue, living or synthetic. Will it work on dragon skin?" "I don't know." She poured a few drops onto the wound. The liquid hissed, then sank into his scales. A faint glow spread across his body, the wound slowly closing. Kaelthar blinked, astonished. "Your people heal with light?" Zyra smiled faintly. "With science. But sometimes they're the same thing." The dragon's deep voice softened. "Perhaps your kind are not so different from mine." That night, as the stars shone cold above, they spoke by the fire. "Zyra, Kaelthar, when your kind ruled this world, did you ever dream of what was beyond the sky?" He gazed upward.
"Once.
Before the wars. We believed each star was the soul of a dragon that had flown too high and never returned. Perhaps your world is where they landed." Zyra smiled. "And maybe your fire still burns in them." The two sat in silence for a long while. The flames flickered between them, painting their faces in gold and silver. Two beings from different worlds, yet bound by the same sorrow and the same fragile hope. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Rocks rained down from the ceiling as the mountain roared. Kaelthar leapt to his feet, wings flaring. "Kaelthar, they have found us." From the shadows of the cave, the Dravith emerged, hissing and twisting, their black eyes gleaming. Zyra raised her weapon, light pulsing in her hands. "Kaelthar, go. I will hold them." "Zyra, no. We fight together." The cave erupted in chaos, fire and light clashing against shadow. Kaelthar unleashed torrents of flame, his roar shaking the earth. Zyra fired bursts of radiant energy, cutting down the creatures that tried to flank him. But more kept coming, crawling from every crack and shadow. One of them leapt onto Kaelthar's neck, biting deep into his scales. The dragon roared in pain. Zyra fired a beam that seared the creature to ash. Zyra, there's too many. Kaelthar. Then we burn them all. He drew deep into his chest, the fire of centuries gathering within him, but before he could unleash it, the ground split open. A massive claw, black as night, burst from the earth, followed by a colossal shape. The Dravith Queen had awakened. Her voice was like smoke and venom. Dravith Queen, the last flame and a creature of stars. How fitting that both should die together. Her massive form towered over them, her wings made of living shadow. Kaelthar's fire dimmed before her. Even he, the last dragon, felt fear. Zyra stepped forward, her voice steady. Zyra, we will not die. Not while life still burns. The Dravith Queen laughed. Then burn, child of light. The mountain shook as darkness swallowed the cave. Darkness swallowed the cave like a living sea. The Dravith Queen rose higher, her wings scraping the cavern walls, her eyes glowing with sickly green fire. Shadows poured from her body, twisting into smaller creatures that swarmed around Kaelthar and Zyra. Kaelthar unleashed a torrent of flame, the heat so intense it melted the stone beneath his claws. But the queen only laughed, the fire sliding harmlessly off her obsidian scales. Dravith Queen, your fire belongs to me, last dragon. The flame you guard has called me home. Her voice echoed like thunder through the mountain. Zyra's armor flickered as her energy shield struggled to hold against the waves of darkness. She raised her arm, firing a pulse of pure starlight into the air. The beam struck the ceiling, illuminating the cavern in white brilliance. For a moment, the shadows hissed and shrank back. Zyra, Kaelthar, the heart. We must reach it now. Kaelthar's eyes burned with determination. He knew she was right. The Heart of Elarion was the only force powerful enough to stand against the Queen, but it could just as easily destroy them both. He spread his wings wide, roaring. Hold on, Star Queen. With one mighty strike of his tail, Kaelthar shattered the cave wall, breaking into a glowing tunnel that led deeper into the mountain. Zyra leapt onto his back as they soared through the narrow passage, chased by waves of living shadow. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber, a cathedral of fire and crystal. In its center floated the Heart of Elarion, a great sphere of molten light, pulsing like a heartbeat. The air shimmered with raw energy. Kaelthar landed hard, his claws sparking against the crystal floor. Zyra slid down beside him, awe flooding her eyes. Zyra, it's alive. Kaelthar, it is the soul of my world, the fire that once gave birth to all dragons. But now, it flickers, as do I. He lowered his massive head toward the glowing sphere. So many years I guarded you, waiting for something worth dying for. Zyra placed a hand on the molten light. Her armor glowed brighter, merging her energy field with the heart's pulse. The connection sent shockwaves through her, visions of dragons soaring through skies, of cities of fire, of endless battles. Her eyes widened. Kaelthar, the heart isn't dying. It's waiting for harmony, not war. Kaelthar tilted his head. Harmony. She turned toward him, her voice steady. Fire and starlight, magic and energy. Alone they fade. Together they can live. Before he could answer, the Dravith Queen burst into the chamber, her massive body breaking through the stone walls. The shadows screamed and poured into the room, swallowing the light. Dravith Queen, you cannot save this world, alien. You cannot save what was born to burn. Kaelthar stood tall, his wings flaring, fire igniting along his scales. Zyra activated her core crystal, radiant light blooming from her chest. The two glowed, gold and silver, flame and starlight. Kaelthar, then let it burn brighter than ever before. The queen lunged, her claws crashing against Kaelthar's chest. The impact threw him against the crystal wall, cracking it. Zyra fired a beam into the queen's face, blinding her momentarily. Kaelthar roared, charging again, his fire blazing hotter than ever. But the queen's shadow swallowed half the flame, twisting it into black smoke. Dravith Queen, your fire is mine to consume. Kaelthar, not while I still breathe. With one final push of strength, Kaelthar wrapped his wings around the queen, pinning her in place. Kaelthar, now, Zyra, combine the light. Zyra nodded, raising her hands toward the heart. Streams of pure starlight poured from her palms, merging with the heart's molten glow. The chamber trembled, the heart expanding until its light filled every corner of the room. Kaelthar and Zyra's powers intertwined, gold and silver spiraling together into one brilliant storm. The queen shrieked as the light consumed her. Her shadows burned away, her screams fading into echoes. The explosion of energy shattered the mountain peak, sending a column of light into the sky. Then silence. When the dust settled, Zyra opened her eyes. She lay in a crater of glowing stone. The air shimmered with gentle warmth. Nearby, the Heart of Elarion floated quietly, now smaller, calm and alive. She turned and saw Kaelthar lying nearby, his golden scales dimmed. Zyra, Kaelthar. She rushed to him, kneeling beside his massive head. His breathing was shallow, but his eyes opened slowly, glowing faintly. Kaelthar, the queen, Zyra, gone. The darkness that's gone. He smiled weakly. Then the flame still burns. Zyra pressed her hand against the scales. You saved your world. He shook his head. No, Star Queen. We did. But as she looked around, her expression turned somber. The mountain was collapsing, the cavern walls cracking. Energy from the heart surged wildly. Zyra, the heart is unstable. The release, it's tearing the planet apart. Kaelthar groaned, forcing himself up. Then you must go. Your ship, can you still fly? She hesitated. Barely. But I won't leave you here. Kaelthar looked at her with ancient sadness. This is my world, Zyra. It is my time to rest. You carry the flame now. Take it beyond the stars. Zyra shook her head, tears glimmering.
No.
You are the flame. He smiled faintly. Then remember me in the stars. The ground split apart. Lava surged through the cracks. Kaelthar lifted his great head, gazing one last time at the heart. He breathed deeply, his final roar shaking the heavens. Fire spread across the sky as he channeled all that remained of his life into the heart. The mountain erupted in light, not destruction, but rebirth. Zyra watched as Kaelthar's body dissolved into streams of golden fire that spiraled upward, merging with the stars. The last dragon was gone, but his flame lived on. She reached out, holding a small ember that floated down from the explosion, a piece of the Heart of Elarion. It pulsed softly in her hand, warm and alive. Zyra. Goodbye, Kaelthar. Your fire will light the stars forever. Her ship, the Star Serpent, rose from the ruins, carrying her back toward the heavens. As it broke through the clouds, Zyra looked back at the glowing world below. Elarion was changing, rivers of molten light spreading across its surface, turning ash into crystal, death into life. The world would live again. Back aboard her ship, Zyra placed the glowing ember into a containment core. It fused with her ship's power, transforming its engines into streams of golden light. Zyra, whispering, for every world that forgets the light, I will carry the fire. She looked at the stars, countless and endless, and smiled. Far away, among those stars, a faint golden shape appeared, wings made of flame, soaring through the void. Kaelthar, the last dragon, was flying once more. The stars shimmered like scattered fire across the endless black sea of space. Queen Zyra sat silently in the cockpit of her restored ship, the Star Serpent, watching as the golden trails of energy flowed through its veins, energy that had once belonged to Elarion, the world of dragons. The ship no longer hummed with the cold rhythm of machines. Instead, it pulsed like a living heart. The ember from the Heart of Elarion now powered its core, fusing alien science with ancient magic. For the first time in her life, Zyra felt both human and infinite, as though she carried a world's soul within her chest. But she was not at peace. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw Kaelthar's face, the last dragon, his golden wings fading into light. His final words echoed in her mind, "Remember me in the stars." Days turned into weeks as she drifted through the void, charting new paths through unknown galaxies. Her people back on Elarion Prime tried to contact her, but she ignored the transmissions. They would not understand. To them, fire was primitive, a force to be controlled, not revered. But she had seen what true fire meant. It was life, sorrow, and rebirth. She had not returned to conquer or rule. She had changed, and she knew her world must change too. Her thoughts were interrupted by the soft chime of her console. A faint signal flickered across the display, a strange energy reading, golden and rhythmic. Zyra frowned. That frequency, it's the same as the heart. Curious, she adjusted her ship's course and followed the signal through the cosmic mist. What she found left her breathless. Before her stretched a nebula of gold and crimson, swirling like a living flame. At its center glowed a massive figure, a shape with wings. Her heart leapt. Kaelthar. The sensors struggled to comprehend what they were reading. The nebula pulsed in harmony with the ember within her ship, as if recognizing its own essence. She stared out the viewport, whispering, "You became the sky itself." The dragon nebula, born from Kaelthar's sacrifice, illuminated the void, casting warmth across 100 worlds. And from its heart, something new was awakening. As her ship approached, small golden motes of light began to gather around the hull. They shimmered like tiny dragons, ethereal, weightless, alive. Zyra extended her hand toward the window, and one of the lights landed on her palm, glowing warmly. It pulsed once, twice, and then merged with her skin. Suddenly, she felt Kaelthar's voice deep within her mind. Kaelthar's voice echoing, "The flame is not mine alone. It belongs to all who carry hope. You were never meant to save one world, Zyra. You were meant to ignite many." Tears welled in her eyes. "Kaelthar, are you still?" Kaelthar's voice, "I am where the fire burns. You are its keeper now." And just like that, the voice faded, leaving behind a silence filled with warmth. Zyra wiped her tears and turned to her navigation console. The star map before her expanded, glowing with countless new routes, paths that had not existed before. The energy of Elarion was rewriting the cosmos itself, creating bridges between worlds once thought unreachable. Zyra, a flame that connects galaxies. She smiled softly. "Then I will be its guardian." She set her course for Elarion Prime, ready to return home, but she was not the same queen who had left. As her ship entered her home system, transmissions poured in. Voices filled the airwaves. "Scientist. Your Majesty. You've been gone for months. The Council feared you were lost." "Zyra. I was lost," she replied calmly, "and then I was found." Her arrival sparked astonishment across her empire. The once sterile halls of the Elarion Palace now glowed with faint gold light as her presence radiated through the city. The people bowed before her, marveling at the golden energy that flowed from her hands. One of her ministers, a proud man named Varen, stepped forward. "My queen, you have returned with strange power. What is this light you bring?" Zyra looked at her people and smiled. "It is the fire of life, the gift of another world. It can heal, create, and unite what was once divided." "Varen. Magic? That is chaos, not science." Zyra's gaze turned gentle but firm. "Then perhaps we need a little chaos to remember what it means to live." Her words rippled through the chamber like thunder and sunlight combined. In the following weeks, Elarion transformed. The sterile white towers began to glow with soft light. The people learned to combine science and flame, creating new forms of energy that healed planets and revived dying moons. They called it Starfire, a union of dragon magic and alien wisdom. And as it spread, Zyra began to see visions in her dreams. New worlds calling out, just as Elarion once had. Worlds broken, forgotten, waiting for spark. Each night, she saw Kaelthar's golden wings gliding between those stars, leading her toward the next dawn. One night, standing on her palace balcony, Zyra looked up at the sky. A faint golden light shimmered in the distance, the Dragon Nebula. Zyra, softly, you gave me your flame. Now, I will share it with the universe. She closed her eyes, extending her hands. The ember within her heart glowed brighter, releasing beams of light that shot across the sky like falling stars. Across galaxies, those beams landed on distant worlds, worlds long forgotten, worlds lost to despair. Each one began to shimmer with faint golden fire, awakening life once more. The tale of Elarion's last dragon was becoming legend among the stars. But peace is never eternal. Far from Elarion, in the cold outskirts of the Zarian belt, something stirred in the darkness. An enormous shadow drifted between asteroids, a creature made of black mist and broken metal, wearing the faint outline of wings. Its eyes opened, burning green. Unknown voice. The dragon's flame has spread too far. If fire brings life, then I will bring the end. The creature turned toward the stars, following the light of the Dragon Nebula. On Elarion, Zyra felt a tremor in her soul, a chill against her fire. Zyra, whispering something's coming, she looked once more toward the heavens, the nebula glowing faintly in the distance. The stars flickered as though warning her. And somewhere, deep in the void, a whisper reached her mind, faint, but familiar. Kaelthar's voice. The war between flame and shadow is not over, Star Queen. A new dawn must rise, or all light will fade. The stars trembled. From the edges of the cosmos, a darkness older than memory began to spread, a storm without form or mercy. It moved like smoke across the void, swallowing entire systems in silence. Where it passed, stars dimmed, and planets turned cold. Queen Zyra stood in the grand observatory of Elarion Prime, watching the black wave approach through her viewing glass. Her heart burned faintly, sensing the disturbance before any machine detected it. Advisor Varen rushed to her side, his face pale. Your Majesty, the outposts in the Zarian belt have gone dark. No signals, no survivors. Zyra's gaze hardened. It's not a storm. It's a presence. Varen hesitated. You mean alive? She nodded slowly. Something born from shadow, something that remembers the fire. Her fingers brushed the glowing ember pendant around her neck, the last piece of the Heart of Elarion. Its warmth flickered uneasily, like a candle sensing wind. She closed her eyes and whispered, Kaelthar, if you can hear me, I need your light. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, a deep, distant echo stirred within her mind. Kaelthar's voice. The shadow you feel is not new. It was once the darkness within dragons, the hunger that destroyed our kind. When I burned, it fled into the void. Now it seeks to return. Zyra. Then we must stop it together. Kaelthar. Together as we were. Fire and starlight. The ember flared brightly, and for a heartbeat, she felt the warmth of his wings around her, a promise through the stars. Days later, the Council of Elarion gathered in the Hall of Light. Their faces were grim, their voices fearful. Varen. Majesty, we cannot fight what we do not understand. Our weapons are useless against something that devours energy itself. Zyra. Then we will not fight with weapons, she said calmly. We will fight with what it cannot consume, unity. Murmurs filled the room. The scientists scoffed. The generals frowned. Zyra continued. It feeds on division, fear, and chaos. But the fire Kaelthar gave us is born from harmony, science and magic, reason and heart. If we stand as one, we become the flame. Still, many doubted. Yet, when the first fragments of the black mist reached the nearest moon and turned it to dust, there was no more argument. The war for the universe had begun. Zyra stood aboard her flagship, the Orion Spear, now powered entirely by starfire. Its core pulsed like a living heart, infused with the magic of Elarion. Around her, fleets of silver ships glimmered, ready for battle. Her voice echoed through the calms. Zyra, people of Elarion. The darkness that comes is not just the end of stars, it is the silence of all life. But we are not powerless. We carry the flame of a forgotten world. And as long as one spark burns, we will not fade. A chorus of voices rose in reply, millions shouting in unison, their courage lighting the void. The enemy arrived. A vast figure emerged from the mist, the shadow Leviathan, larger than any planet, its body woven from the remnants of dead stars. Its wings stretched across galaxies, and in its eyes burned the same green fire that once belonged to the Dravith Queen. Her voice, cold, cruel, and eternal, filled every mind. Shadow Queen, you thought you destroyed me, dragon. But I was never truly gone. Every shadow cast by your fire was mine to claim. Zyra's fists tightened. Then you will see what light truly means. She gave the command. All ships, ignite the starfire. Thousands of vessels flared in golden brilliance, their engines forming rivers of light. Together, they unleashed a storm of radiant energy, a symphony of flame and starlight. The void erupted, the shadow Leviathan recoiling as the brightness tore through its mist. But the creature roared, swallowing entire fleets in black smoke. The light flickered. Zyra's heart pounded. They were losing. Varen overcome. Your Majesty, the energy levels are falling. The flame can't hold. Zyra closed her eyes and whispered, Kaelthar now. The ember around her neck blazed like a newborn star. The ship shuddered as the dragon nebula itself began to stir. From the golden cloud far beyond, a colossal shape emerged, vast wings of flame stretching across the sky. Kaelthar. He was no longer flesh and bone, but light and fire, a spirit reborn from the heart of Elarion. Kaelthar, thundering voice, Shadow Queen. You once fed on my kind. Now, you will face the fire of all who came before. He soared forward, his roar shaking the heavens. Zyra's fleet followed, their lights merging with his golden trail. The final battle began. Kaelthar and the Shadow Queen collided, light against darkness. Every blow shattered stars, every breath forged new constellations. Zyra guided the fleet through the chaos, channeling her ship's energy directly into Kaelthar's fire. Zyra, you are not alone, my friend. Her ship linked with his energy stream, forming a bridge between mortal and immortal. Fire and light fused, their bond rekindled stronger than ever. Kaelthar's eyes glowed brighter. Together, then, they unleashed their combined power, Starlight Inferno, a torrent of energy that turned the void white. The Shadow Queen screamed as the light pierced through her form, tearing apart the darkness that sustained her. Yet even as she faded, her voice echoed with venom. Shadow Queen. Light cannot exist without shadow. Your flame will burn itself to ash. Kaelthar's roar answered her. Then we will rise from the ashes, again and again. With one final burst, he and Zyra unleashed the heart's full power. The universe blazed as the darkness was consumed in pure, eternal light. Silence. When the light faded, the Leviathan was gone. The black mist vanished. Stars once dimmed now shone brighter than ever. The fleet floated in awe, victorious, yet speechless. Zyra stood on the deck, exhausted but alive. The ember around her neck glowed faintly, whispering warmth against her skin. Kaelthar's voice softly, It is done. The flame lives on. She looked to the stars. Where will you go now? Kaelthar. Wherever new worlds are born. Wherever hope needs a spark. And when the stars grow cold, I will return. She smiled through her tears. Goodbye, Kaelthar. Thank you for teaching me to burn. Kaelthar. And you for teaching me to hope. His light faded slowly into the nebula until only the golden glow of a new star remained, one born from fire and love, named Kaelthar's heart. Years passed. The galaxy healed. Under Queen Zyra's rule, light and life spread farther than ever before. She became known as the Queen of Fire and Starlight, the one who united worlds through compassion, not conquest. On quiet nights, she still stood on her balcony, gazing at the golden star that burned eternally above Elarion. Zyra, whispering, "Rest well, my dragon. Your fire lights the universe." And sometimes, when the night was especially still, she swore she could hear wings in the wind and a deep voice whispering through the stars. The flame never dies.